Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today is a vlog that I've been wanting to do for a long time, but I've had to wait because of the book that needed to be in it. So what I'm going to be doing for the next few days is reading the highest rated and the lowest rated book that I physically own according to Goodreads. So I'm gonna pull up my Goodreads just to make sure nothing's changed since the last time I looked. But on my physical TBR, I have 78 books on my physical TBR that are all listed on here, and if I sort by average rating, the lowest rated book on my TBR with an average rating of 3.2 is Cursed by Thomas Wheeler. And I think this was a Netflix series. The synopsis is, the time for kings is over, the sword has chosen a queen. Nimue grew up as an outcast. Her connection to dark magic made her something to be feared in her druid village, and that made her desperate to leave. That is until red paladins slaughter her entire village, and her fate is forever altered. Charged by her dying mother to reunite with an ancient sword with a legendary sorcerer, she is now her people's only hope. Her mission leaves little room for revenge, but the growing power within her can think of nothing else. She teams up with a charming mercenary named Arthur and refugee Fey folk. She wields a sword meant for one true king. She battles to unite her people, avenge her family, and discover the truth about her destiny. And perhaps the one thing that can change the destiny itself is found at the edge of a blade. I found this at Ollie's like a long time ago. I've had this on my TBR for about a year, I'd say. So I'm very intrigued by this. A little put off that it's such a low rating. It's not like a hugely low rating, still above a 3, but the one thing I've noticed about this book is it is so heavy. I don't know why. It's only like 400 pages, and the writing's pretty big, so I'm wondering if it's YA. And I think there's like some drawings throughout. So I'm intrigued. I will be starting with this one when I read them because I don't want to start with the next book we're going to talk about because I'll explain in a second. So the highest rated book currently on my TBR is Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo, which is the second book in the Six of Crows duology, second and final book. And I just read Six of Crows last month. I read that in April, so I can now do this vlog because I wanted this book to be the highest rated book, but it was part of a series. So I'm very excited for this. I assume this will pick up at the end of Six of Crows, which did leave off on a little bit of a cliffhanger. I can't really read the back of this to you all. I'm gonna read it to myself in a minute, but because if you haven't read the first one, I don't want to ruin what happens in that one. But I adored that book. It was so close to a 5-star, but I was afraid that this one would be a true 5-star for me and outshine Six of Crows, so I didn't want to rate it quite as a 5-star. But I've heard that people like this one more, so I'm hoping that that's the same case for me because I really enjoyed Six of Crows. So those are the two books I'm going to be reading in this vlog. It's going to be a short one because it's just 2 books, but I've been waiting a long time to do this one. Once I get through the one book I'm reading now, I need to finish up a book probably in the next hour or so. I'm going to pick up Cursed and I'll start with that one and I will update you all along the way. Okay, so I'm about like 50 pages in, and I think the sword that was like in the synopsis is gonna be Excalibur because our main character, so Nimue, I think is how you say her name. So the book starts off with like the Red Paladins, which are like these monks, I think, that are going around and like destroying villages and like preaching about their god, and they're like crucifying people. It starts with like a scene in a village like that, and then it goes into Nimue, I think is how you say her name, tutoring this little kid named Squirrel, and then her mother comes to get her and takes her to like the elders in her village, and they want to make her like the summoner of their council or whatever, I guess it would be, because she's Fae. So there's like Faes and there's mortals, different types of Fae. I'm still learning all of that, but they want to make her the summoner because she has like these special powers where she can talk to what they call the hiddens. I'm not really sure what those are yet, but it's like these things in her that like talk to her and basically try to warn her of danger or like stuff that's weird. That's all they've really done so far. She can also like manipulate things because she's basically like a Fey witch. in defiance of the fact that they want to make her the summoner, her and Pym go into town because she was actually going to try to get on a ship and get out. That doesn't happen, so while she's there, she meets a guy named Arthur. And I didn't think anything of that. And then the last chapter I just read was from like the king's perspective in this, I guess, the whole kingdom. And he brought his magician in, and his magician was Merlin. So I think this is going to be a little bit of a King Arthur retelling. I didn't see that in the synopsis, but maybe it was supposed to be implied and I just didn't catch on. But the sword that they talk about her getting that has only ever been like wielded by a man, I think is going to be Excalibur. That makes sense, right? But we'll see. I'm done for tonight. I will continue. Today's Thursday, so I have work tomorrow. I'll read a little bit there if I get some time, and then I'll update when I get home, and then continue to read in the evening. So, update. It is now Friday evening. I read quite a bit at work today, actually. This book's upside down. This book's pretty easy to read. Yeah, it is YA, so it goes fast. It's not a lot's really happening either, and I think that's why it's going quickly, because they're just on an adventure right now. Nothing's really happening plot-wise. Our character has found this sword. We've also met a different character whose name is Morgan, and that also lines up with the King Arthur thing because of Morgana. But it's taking like a different turn than I thought it would. I'm not really sure where it's going, but it's definitely leaning away from what I was thinking it was going to with the King Arthur references and stuff. So they're not calling the sword Excalibur, they're calling it something else. But it's still kind of, I don't know, what was Excalibur? Was that like the King's sword? I don't remember. But basically, I think we're going to find something out about our main character and what makes her special that we don't know yet, or like that something that happened in her past that she thought was bad, which is actually, I think, going to be what makes her special. I don't know. I'm not really sure where this book's going. It has potential. I just don't know that it's going to reach it. Right now, they're just on their way to try to find Merlin because her mother told her, I think it said that on the front, like her mother told her she needed to go find Merlin when she had, her mission that it talks about is to find Merlin and give him the sword. So that's what we're doing. We're just trying to find Merlin, and the red paladins or whatever they are, the bad monk people, are after her because she escaped them when her mother gave her that sword and everything. So there's a little bit of conflict. Stuff's happening, but not a lot's happening. And I don't really know how I feel about it. I don't think this is going to be a very highly rated book for me, which is not surprised because it is the lowest on my TBR. I'm just worried that it's just going to like end flat, but we'll see. I still have half the book to go, so I'm at page 200, and it's a 400-page book. I will continue to read, and I'll update when I get a little bit further, and we'll see if I can finish this book out tonight. So I've got exactly 100 pages left. I'm still not sure that I know what's going on. We did get a little bit of a unexpected twist to the book, but it's basically, Nimue is basically just trying to go after these Red Paladin people to get back at them for what they did to her kind, because she is Fae. There's like different types of Fae in this world, and she is one of them. So she's just trying to gather forces that these people have like wronged, which is basically all of the magical people. They're not really going after humans, and get them to fight with her against these monks. That's pretty much the book. It's okay. It's enjoyable enough that I'm gonna finish reading it, but really it's not really knocking my socks off. I don't think I was really expecting it to anyway. So I'm gonna try to get this done. I only have 100 pages left. It shouldn't take me much more than an hour. Then I will wrap up this book and we can start the next one. Cursed. That ending was awful. I don't really feel like the book concluded. And I also think this is the only book in the series. I don't think it's a series. I think it's a standalone book. I think. Now I'm gonna have to look that up too. Not that I would probably read the next one anyway. Yeah, I just feel like the end didn't conclude anything. So, I don't know how to feel about this one. I will rate this at the end of the video just because I don't know where I stand with it right now because that ending was just awful. I'll get back to you on that one. So I'm gonna go put this away and then get the next book. Okay, so finished the lowest rated on my TBR, which was Cursed by Thomas Wheeler. And now I'm going to be moving on to Crooked Kingdom, which is the second book in the Six of Crows duology by Leigh Bardugo, which is part of her Grishaverse. And I'm very excited for this. This is currently the highest rated book on my physical TBR. So it is late. I really wanted to finish that book tonight, so it's a little bit later than I wanted to be up reading that. But I may start this, but I probably won't get very far, so I'll be back with y'all tomorrow on where I land on this one. So it's now Saturday morning. I only read like 30 pages of Crooked Kingdom last night before I fell asleep. And I'm now up to page 96. I don't know what it is about this duology in general for her. I mean, I've only read these two books and Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. But there's something about her writing, especially in this series, that is just, I don't want to put the book down. And I don't feel like I'm reading for as long as I am. I don't know how to describe it. Without going into too much detail, obviously, because this is spoiler free, and if you haven't read the first book, you won't want to know what happens in this. But this picks up where the last one left off. Kaz and the gang are trying to like plan for revenge on something that happened in the last one. And it's pretty much the same characters that we had in the first book. And there's more mention of characters from Shadow and Bone than the first book, I think, had. It seems like that, at least. They talk more about the Grisha from Shadow and Bone in this one, like specific Grisha. And then Elena was mentioned in this, and I don't know, she might have been mentioned once in Six of Crows. And then King Nikolai, also from Shadow and Bone, was mentioned in this, and he is actually one of the characters in the King of Scars duology that I just bought. I'm hoping that there's more tie-in to the Shadow and Bone trilogy in this book than there was in the first one, just because I want to see the worlds actually, it's the same universe, I want to see the worlds collide a little more. I mean, I'm only 100 pages into a 500-page book, so I'm sure there's going to be more mentions, but I'm enjoying it. Again, like, the story hasn't really developed into exactly what I think it's going to be, but I'm still really eager to pick it up and continue reading it. Did I finish the 100 pages and then watch 20 minutes of Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce videos? Maybe. But now I'm gonna eat breakfast and then get right back into it because I want to get as far as I can in this today since I'm traveling for business this week and I want to have this book finished up before I have to leave for my flight tomorrow. I will check back in once I've made it a bit further. Pretty sure I love these books so much because for some reason Leigh Bardugo writes Kaz's mind so well. Like, you think you know where she's going with something when you read a scene, and then like 2 chapters later you're like, nope, that's a completely different. It's just the way she does it is so good. If you've read the books, you know what I mean, but you think you know what's happening and then you find out you had no clue. So I just got to part 3, which is called Brick by Brick. So the first part of the story is like done. Like, the first, I guess, task that they needed to do in this is done, but there's still more going on with the story. So it's still really interesting. Like I said, in that last tiny update I did, she writes Kaz's brain in a way that reminds me of like Sherlock Holmes, the show. I think it was just called Sherlock that I watched with, I can't remember his name. The guy that plays Doctor Strange. You think you know what's going on, but the way that their brain thinks and the way that they plan, you just can't explain well. Like your brain doesn't understand it, so like explaining it's difficult, and that's how she writes Kaz's character, and I just love that. That you think you know what's going on, but in his brain he's like, no, I was one step ahead. I knew this was going to happen. So this is actually what was going on. And I just love that. And I love Kaz's character, and I think it's just the way she writes it that makes me love him so much. And also why I like these books. I am going to take a break to start packing, and I have some laundry to fold, and then I'll be back to read more and give you an update probably when I'm like halfway through. I think I'm going to try to get about halfway through, and then I'll give the next update. I'm officially like halfway through. Found out that this book has pages that are out of order, so that's been really fun for like the past 2 chapters. And I think I have one more chapter to get through like that before it fixes itself. But anyway, this does talk more about the characters from Shadow and Bone. There are characters that are now like in the story, not just being mentioned. So that's really exciting, and it makes me very, very, very excited for the King of Scars duology. So I'm gonna have to figure out how to get that in the next few months, because this month's pretty much all booked out. Get it? But anyway, really enjoying this. The story is just getting better and better in developing, and the characters, I just love these characters, and I'm so sad that I only got 2 books with them. So part of me wants to savor this, but the other part of me is like, I need to get this done before I leave tomorrow. So I'm really gonna try to get this finished tonight, and I also want to know what happens. So it's a catch-22 situation. I don't want it to be over, but at the same time, I want to know what's going on. But I've got 3 more sections of the book. I've just reached section 4, which is the unexpected visitor. And then I've got section 5 and 6 left. So I will update maybe at each of those, and then wrap everything up at the end. Once I'm done, close out the vlog. But we'll see. I've still got a decent amount of reading left to do, so we'll see what time that happens. So I am less than 100 pages away from finishing Crooked Kingdom, and it is like, it's so good. I don't even know. There's just constant action. Like, you think something's done or they've figured something out, and then nope, there's something else that happens, or you think you know. Like, she's just keeping me on my toes, so that's also great. I don't want it to be over. I love these characters so much. I don't want this story to be over. It has to end. So I'm on like the final part. I think it's called like Action and Echo. I'll show it in the next clip. I'm just gonna sit down and finish it out, and then I'll be back to close out and give my final thoughts. My lovelies, it is time to wrap up this vlog. It was basically just me reading 2 books, my lowest and highest rated physical TBR books on Goodreads. And I started with Cursed by Thomas Wheeler. Essentially, this was like a King Arthur retelling, but with Nimue being our main character. I think she was supposed to be the lady in the lake from King Arthur. That's what it all kind of led towards. I'm not exactly sure. Like, I think it was kind of supposed to be maybe like her origin story. It wasn't very clear. About halfway through the book, I was at that point where I said, okay, maybe this is what it's supposed to be, but even the ending, not really clear. But it's really just an adventure novel. It's her and Arthur and Morgan just trying to fight for what is right and get vengeance for her people, her Fae people, and working with other Fae types to try to get revenge on these red paladins, I think they were called, which was like a group of monks that were trying to cleanse the world of evil things, which was essentially anything that wasn't human. So it's basically what this was an adventure novel for her. And I think semi King Arthur reimagining, retelling, origin, I'm not really sure. I ended up giving this 2.75 stars, not my favorite, and I think the fact that the ending was so not clear was the reason I couldn't even give this a 3 star. So that's where I ended on that one. And then Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo was my highest rated on my TBR for good reason. This book was phenomenal. I literally just finished it, so I'm still reeling from how it ended, but I'm so sad that the journey with these characters is over, that I don't get another book with them. But I do still have 2 more Grishaverse books to read. I just don't think they're gonna measure up. The difference in the feelings I got from reading Shadow and Bone trilogy, which I enjoyed, and this duology are night and day. This was so well written. These characters were so flawed, but so very lovable. And she just wrote them in a way that, like, you couldn't help but root for them and want them to succeed, even though what they were doing was technically probably not great. But the way that the story was told and the, like, intricacies that are weaved throughout it, and, like, Kaz's plots and everything that you just don't even see coming was just, like, mastermind. So this was 5 stars. And I kind of knew it would be, but it blew me away. This will definitely be one of my top books of 2024, if not of all time. So that is it. I read those 2 books, and they did, in my opinion, live up to what their ratings were on Goodreads. So I try not to look at those kinds of things when I'm picking books, but it's hard not to when you're, like, adding them to your I want to read. When you buy a new book, sometimes I look actually before I buy a book, but again, I have liked books that others have not, and I have not liked books that have been super popular and 5-star reads for a lot of people, so always have to give it your own opinion. Thank you for watching. If you've made it this far, be sure to like and subscribe if you like my content, and I will hopefully see you all in the next one.